So it looks like everybody has joined. It's 2025. Good evening, everybody. My name is Thomas Geis. Below me, you should see my colleague Jörg Behringer. We're talking about AI-supported user research tonight or today afternoon. Morning, I'm not even sure. In Europe at the moment, it's 8:30 in the evening, 8:25. And a few words about ourselves. This is me. This is Jörg on the right side. Jörg and myself are in the field, working in the field, have been working in the field of user research, user requirements engineering, conceptual design for the last 30 plus years. And maybe, it's easy to find us on LinkedIn. But maybe one point that I want to make tonight is that Springer just published a new book where Jörg is one of the editors. I'm one of the chapter editors on human-centered artificial intelligence for the workplace. Human-centered artificial intelligence for the workplace. The book has just been published June 2025. We're both working for ProContext, and if we want to have a quick look at this company, ProContext is it's actually three companies in a group of companies, but the ProContext has been there for the last 32 years. And sorry, that's wrong. We've been there for the last 23 years. And before that, Jörg and me already worked in different roles, always in the field of user research as part of human-centered design. And we're having about 150, things actually 170, I should update that up here, companies that we work for. There are 69 medical device manufacturers. Here's the figures. There are 31 software manufacturers and what we call system suppliers. This is an automatic translation by Google, including companies like SAP, or when it comes to the big players up here, we have Bosch here, and rather international players. We're also working for what we call device manufacturers. We're working for the automotive industry and German Lufthansa, Deutsche Bahn, some telecommunications companies, insurances and banks. There aren't that many when you look at the big ones. Public services, testing and approval bodies, interestingly. Those are by organizations like the FDA in the US, research institutes, IT management consultancies, chemical pharmaceuticals, and I think that is a poor translation, those companies that come up with solar technology and what do you call these energies? Anyway, you can reuse them. So when clients ask us, you're working for so many different companies, what's actually your specialization? We always point out so much specific products or specific industries. And as we were working on methods for long years, one tragic finding that you have as a user researcher or a UX person is that when you look at the way companies approach user research, finding out what's really needed as a basis for a solid design, you can look up very recent articles. Nielsen Norm Group is very popular in the subject. And I think a week ago or two, they had this article, Why Organizations Don't Do User Research and How to Change That. And there are two terms around now that are more and more used. One of them is called primary user research, which is all about really doing the work with users, performing interviews, performing observations, doing surveys, doing participatory design. And this is what we would call primary user research. And on the other hand, in the age of AI, the term secondary user research, which was always around, also referred to as desktop research. This becomes more and more popular because now that we have access to information, what we call contextual information, now that you have access to information about users and what they're doing, supported by LLM systems, it is amazing to see how much information that we tend to identify again and again in the field of user research is already available. And yesterday, actually, there was a post from a gentleman called Jacob Nielsen, who is very renowned in the field of usability engineering. He's one of the, what do you call these people? Pioneers in the field. And Jacob Nielsen yesterday said, the secondary first, primary second sequence may seem a numerical mismatch, but it is the way to go. So what he was trying to say is, well, if you have information available on the web and you have techniques to capture it and you have techniques to analyze it and synthesize it, you might well make good use of AI to do the user research indirectly by just accessing the data that are on the web. And based on that assumption, we have built a product called the Product Context Analyzer, where we have basically thrown all of our knowledge in, our methodological knowledge in how to structure information, how to derive requirements, and. And this is what we want to talk about tonight. So the very short version about our product is, it is an AI-powered solution that where you can, as an output, if you look at it from an output perspective, what it allows you is to automatically derive all those process outputs that we tend to use as user researchers as design input for our design teams. And that involves the things that, I mean, it's a highlight. That's what we thought was the most relevant outputs that we should produce with our system, which is, if you look at the journey maps, desired outcomes, which is a term from jobs to be done, affinity diagrams, persona fact sheets. Doesn't mean we produce fancy personas. We just produce the data that you can use to then produce some fancy slide or poster of it. And so this is what our product produces, and the way it works is that from a user's perspective, you simply enter a single prompt, which might be something like washing your own car as a task, and the system analyzes the overall context and comes back with the information you see on the right side. On the other hand, if you have performed interviews with users and you have data that you have captured yourself, like as is scenarios or day in the life stories, you can also upload them into the tool, and it will then analyze the information and synthesize it according to what I would call best practices that we have applied over the last long years. Okay, so that's the short version of our product, which I will show you in a minute, based on examples, how to use it, how you can make use of it. And I think there was a question already, Jörg. I think, Jörg, you have an eye on the chat. In case someone has a question, we will have a question and answer session in the end. We will answer your questions. This is a bit more complex picture that shows you, gives you a bit of an idea of the architecture of the overall system. We do have a knowledge graph that we have developed, and this is based on ISO standards for usability and user experience, and all the, you could almost say mathematical equations that we have developed over the last years, how to come from raw data in the context to structured requirements and to actually conceptual designs. And what you see here with the gray shade in the back, this is our product. Our product simply sucks everything out of the OpenAI system. And what it gets out, what it takes from here, it takes based on a context, what we call a context prompt or an interview transcript that you have available, or maybe 10 interview transcripts that you could upload here. And based on the prompt that we give it, or the context information that we have, it looks up the LLM and identifies all information that it needs to analyze that context up here. Our knowledge graph then processes it and comes up with those process outputs that you see on the right side. We're using an OpenAI team license to run the system, which means that training of the LLM system based on the data that you put in here is prohibited. OpenAI won't use the information that we gather and structure here to train their LLM system. So that is what we are doing with our product. And now I will go into the live demo, exactly 10 minutes over. Jörg, you keep an eye on the what do you call it, chat. I will just switch to our product. Okay, where is it? Thomas, browser. Here's the browser. That's the lobby. That's where we were before. This is something
no questions so far. No questions so far. You did a great job.
I just try to get rid of all those Zoom artifacts that you have on the screen when you speak. Okay, so there's a website. Let's start here. There's a website called www.contextanalyzer.com. Maybe I just really entered that URL up here. Then you land at this page. And if you would be a registered user, you would then have a button, your face up here, and you would have a button, My Research. And if you go into My Research, you simply have a single text field in here where you enter a statement that describes, let's say, the analysis focus that you have, where you want to get your user research outcomes. And what we have been practicing over long years is that we classify contexts from a scope, from a complexity perspective. If you are building a product that just supports a single task, a good prompt would be to just state the task that you are supporting with your system. For example, submit travel expenses as an employee. Then we consider the next higher level of the next complex level of scope, a responsibility, which basically is a set of tasks that a people repeatedly does as part of their job. That would be, for example, manage a travel service team in a large company. That would be what we call a responsibility. A set of the tasks up here. Internally, we call them task bundles, but no one adopts that term. Then we have journeys. And when we consider journeys, we look at bigger processes, what we call multi-phase processes. For example, relocate an employee to a foreign country. And we also have what we call it. Okay, there's people speaking. I don't know if you're speaking to me, just in case you're having a conversation, just mute yourself. Okay, we also can analyze it's rather a job role than a persona, but we call it persona because it's a popular word. Everybody uses it with 5 different meanings. And a persona here would be a job role, travel agent in a large company. And before we started the session tonight, I have used the product context analyzer to analyze all these contexts. But to not make you feel we've prepared some fake stuff here, which we didn't. This is real serious analysis down here. I would like to ask for 3 proposals from the audience. Whoever wants to put a title of a task into the chat where you would say, this is what we're actually working on, a single task, like baking a cake, submitting travel expenses. Well, that's already there. So if we have 3 statements from just type it in. Don't worry, we won't talk to you afterwards. If you want to throw something in that you want to see to be analyzed by the system, you're most welcome to do it exactly now. And the first 3 statements that we see in the chat, we would throw into our system and start the analysis while I'm presenting the analysis that's already there. But the analysis might take 1 minute, it might take 10 minutes if it's a rather complex task. So, yeah, are there any proposals from people in the room?
Yeah, the first one is creating a process model for shared community libraries within a design system.
Okay, creating a process model. I know I can copy it out, but I'm too stupid. I have to concentrate on screen.
A process model for a shared community library.
For a shared community library, yeah?
Yeah.
Books, yeah?
Within a design system.
Within a design system. Okay, then.
That's a task for a designer. Yeah, just fire it up.
Sorry. All I'm doing now is I press one button. It's called Start Context Analysis. I click it now. And what you will see down here is that our system is now starting to analyze which data are there, capture data, and analyze them and process them into the artifacts or the process outputs that we've seen before. We can directly start the next task if there is another one. Jörg?
Yeah. Issues that policy agents face with. See, this is not a task statement. Can someone put in really a task like issues that policy agents face with their multiple applications while on the road? So the task statement will be dealing with an issue.
Yeah.
A police agent faces.
Police agent, okay, faces.
With their multiple applications. Yeah. You're kind of describing a pain point. Let's make it a task. Dealing with an issue a police agent faces while being on the road.
While being.
So we see this very often, by the way, that designers describe rather their design objective or a pain point, or that they have the task to design, but what you have to enter is the task your users will do or will face. Yeah. Okay, so I think this is good enough.
I press start. No worries. Let's see what comes out. Let's be real people. Next one. A third one, and then I continue with what I want to say. Is there one?
Here, let me see. What is that we had this additional context, great visibility. I think that's good enough. Let's go on. We have to.
Perfect. So what you're seeing down here is that our system is it's live now. This is live. Our system is analyzing these data. It says creating a process model for a shared community. It assumes that this is a journey. This is a longer thing. And dealing with an issue a police agent faces while being on the road is the responsibility of that first person. If you would look at the different issues that they have, each of them you could classify as a task. Dealing with a drunk person who becomes aggressive or something, that would be a task within that responsibility. Anyway, what I want to do now is, while this thing is running, I want to just show you what an analysis looks like that our system has produced. And I will take a single task, because that is something that is quite good to start with. And here's a task: submit travel expenses as an employee. If I open the analysis after it has run, you get this page here, and we have you could call it a results overview up here, where it tells you, where it gives you everything it has found in terms of the artifacts that we have. I call them artifacts. The process outputs from user research that we have introduced before. So, for example, if I look at that single task, submitting, getting the money back after a business travel, here, for example, well, to begin with, what we have here, I clicked on task hierarchy, is the overall workflow, you can say. It's actually, we call it in Europe a task model. The jobs to be done, people call it a job map. That's what they call it. You see, for submitting travel expenses, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 subtasks that it consists of. You can read it here. I don't want to read them all out. And what you can now do is you can look, for example, at a what we call task diagram, a task diagram. I just clicked back to the results overview. I'm not fooling you. I'm just navigating within the system. Whatever is black and is the one that is selected. So if I look at the results of the task analysis, I can here see a so-called task diagram, which tells you who is the primary user. Actually, in that case, we call them here primary stakeholder. Things that can be debated. Don't worry about it. It's the employee. We give a bit of a profile of the primary user group. We show the needed competency that this person has to have in that context for that task, the personal goals that were identified for that person, the business goals behind that task that obviously, and we all know it. And then it shows, it gives a bit of an overall view on the task itself. Title of the task, where does it start? Where will it end? What is the the central task object, we call it. That's a term that comes from what was also referred to as OOUX these days, the travel expense report. That's what the person is working on. That is what they complete as part of their task. The intended outcomes that you are aiming at when you finish your task, the pain points that you have as part of the task. And then we show for each of the subtasks, what are the resources that people actually use when they complete each of those subtasks to eventually arrive at the intended outcome. So that is what we call a task diagram. And this is not a requirements statement. It is a description of what is happening in the context. You could easily throw that on one slide and inform people who want to get an overall picture of what are we designing for, to explain them what's happening in the context. We don't only have context information here, we also identify user requirements that are structured by the task or the responsibility or the journey that we have analyzed here. And what you see here is, you now see again on the left side is the task hierarchy, and you see for the task submitting travel expenses, a list of user requirements. It's not too many. It's not this 500 pages spec that we are faced with sometimes. It's the essence of what has to be made possible for within each of those subtasks from a user's perspective. And the statements here, from a phrasing perspective, they are standardized. So you always get comparable, it's easy to read them, and it's always a statement about what would a person have to be able to see with the system or to recognize, what would the person be able to do with the system in terms of input something or select something, and it's a statement about which resources the user would access while they are completing this task. And this structure of requirements we have for each of the subtasks that constitutes the overall task. Now, if you are not working with requirements, if you work in the medical device industry, you have to work with requirements. It's kind of that is the typical socialization in a regulated industry. If you are more used to what's these days called user stories, the system immediately gives you, based on the analysis, a complete user story map where we see for each subtask within that task here, what is the subtask again with a short description, and what is it from a user's perspective that we will have to build with the system. So this is what we would call a user story map. We also identify the task objects that are you can say from if you are into conceptual design, we would say these are the things that really have to be built later on the user interface, but we have them here in a solution agnostic way. We say, okay, there are travel expenses, these are what we call task objects, the things that you create or modify or learn something about while you are performing a task. And we have them at the task level, also at the subtask level. This is what you see here. There's not that many of them because you don't want to have a confusing interface with 100 things that no one understands. Conceptual design is about getting the things on the screen or on the product that people interact with anyway, no matter if they have your product or another one. These task objects are central to this lately rather popular approach called OOUX, made popular by Sophia Prata from the US. We also have, if you are more coming from a jobs to be done, let's say if your company is working with jobs to be done, then you would be used to what's referred to as desired outcomes. And in the jobs to be done framework, they also work with tasks. They call it the job, all is good. But that's all wording. But the analysis that you do when you analyze a context using the jobs to be done methodology is that you look at tasks, you create a so-called job map, which I said before we call a task model. And for each of for the task to begin with, but for each of the subtasks within this task, you would identify what is it that we have to get out of the system from a user's perspective. And these are classically those maximize, minimize, sometimes avoid statements. From a product management perspective, this is something that product managers actually quite like, because it is not sort of a very detailed requirement statement. It is, product managers, they come back from the field and whoops, now I clicked a bit too much. Here we are again. Product managers, they come back from the field and say, look, the problem is the following. We have to minimize the time it takes from having performed a surgery to get the equipment ready for the next surgery, for example, and that is the job to be done when you build a system. So we produce those desired outcome statement. And also, if you look at the left side here was the results overview. Plenty of things that you can deep dive into here. Don't want to confuse you with that, but it is a structured thing. We also have a button here called, or a navigation item called Insights. For those who are really coming from contextual design perspective, these are affinity diagrams where you see all the pain points. Pain points we also have as an information item in here, where you see all the issues that you have in the context structured by themes, and either you have those either you focus on key outcomes that have to be produced by design. And when it comes to expense reporting efficiency, that's one subject. There is guidelines and policies in here as one theme underneath. And if you click on that right thing here, it would tell you what it is exactly, what you have to focus on with regards to guidelines and policies. You also have key problem areas. Actually, to just to clarify what I just said, those key outcomes, they relate to those desired outcomes that you have in jobs to be done. And this is a well-structured affinity diagram related to all those outcomes. You also have those affinity diagrams related to key problems that you have to solve. So if we look again at the context that we are supporting from a problem perspective, I would expect here that we find the major pain points. Exactly, that's what we have here. We have the major pain points that were identified that should be resolved with a supporting system. And when it comes to the people that we are designing for, we also have a long list of stakeholders in here where, okay, this is because there are so many, we have decided to manually open them after. Our system identifies how often does a specific job role appear in the context information, and they assume, so we're counting occurrences of specific roles that we find in the context, and the one with the highest rank, that is what we would call the primary user group. But there's also members of staff in the finance department, there's the manager of the employee, there's the accounting team, travel coordinator, human resources department. So you get a map here of all the stakeholders that are not only those who are performing the task, but those who are doing tasks around the task of submitting travel expenses. And for each of them, you get a bit of a profile, what their involvement is related to the tasks that we see on the screen. Okay. Right. So one more thing that is interesting to look at is, sorry, here we go. No, here we go. If we look at the research that I have performed before, this was the view on a single task that a system supports. But when it comes, for example, to a journey where you have lots of people involved and it might take a long time before the journey is over, if I dive into the results of a journey, then everybody would immediately associate, if we describe a journey, the means to describe that journey. The journey here is relocate an employee to a foreign country. You would expect to have a journey map. And if I click on that, what you see here is a journey map that the system has identified. This obviously takes longest when you analyze journeys with our system, because there's plenty of tasks within a journey. And here you see the phases of this journey on the very left side. This is like a grid for a journey map. You see the phases that this journey consists of. Within each phase, you see the different stakeholders that are participating in that phase, and you see the tasks that have to be completed within that phase. Also, the outcomes that have to be achieved as part of this phase, and the pain points that exist in that phase. So that is another. I just see it's 2055. Can't believe it. So that is another deliverable that we produce. And we also do this persona analysis. If I again go back into my research and look at another analysis that we have performed, that is the persona, the travel agent in a large company. If I open this one, it will give me, for example, a persona fact sheet for the travel agent. And these are data that you could use responsibly. Okay, travel agent, we have the environment that this person works in, a quote from that person, which gives you a bit of a self-image or the identity of that job role. Then alternative roles that these people might also be called, and the responsibilities that they have, the key problem areas, the key desired outcomes. And again, that is an overview. That's what we call a fact sheet. And again, for this persona, you would have all the detailed task-related information, like requirements that you would find for a specific task. You would be able to access all this always in this structured way that you see on the left side. And that's what I wanted to say about our product tonight. Unfortunately, it's 2057. Let me see what happened to the research that we've done for you. The research where we entered the tasks tonight that came from the audience. I just opened it up. Let's be curious. Let's start with dealing with an issue a police agent faces while being on the road. Let's look at the task hierarchy. That would be the first thing that I would do, and see what does that system tell you. Okay, there's a responsibility dealing with an issue, and there are several tasks underneath: assessing the situation, communicating with dispatch, intervening in conflict, documenting incident details, providing assistance to individuals, making arrests, coordinating with other agencies, evaluating the need for backup. And that would be reoccurring tasks within that responsibility of a police agent. And within each task, you would then see there is subtasks in here, and you could again deep dive in all the information that you would need, that these people need, that you would have to supply with the product you are building for them. This is live, friends. I'm just talking myself into what I see here, but it makes a lot of sense to me, I must say. Let's have a quick look into the other one, because people made an effort to help us with this presentation. Creating a process model for a shared community library within a design system. Let's see what that turned into. There's a journey map in here. The system believes it's a journey. And here are the phases: defining project scope, gathering user requirements. Amazing. That doesn't come from us. That comes from the analysis, although it's a term that we use all the time. Designing the process model, validating the design, implementing the process model, monitoring and evaluating performance. So that's what the system comes back with on a very high level. It gives you the stakeholders in here, again, the tasks, and you would be able, for each phase of that journey, to deep dive into the task and the subtasks and get all the information that we would call design input. Period. 2059, Jörg. I messed up the question and answer session. What do we do now? What does Rosenfeld say? Can we talk for 5 more minutes? Okay, are there any questions? Jörg, did you find any?
So one question is, I start from the bottom. Are these views shareable to other stakeholders, export and so on? So as of now, yes, you can export. You didn't show the export, by the way.
Oh, so thank you very much. Sorry about this one. Just till you believe it. You see that button down here? It says download content as CSV file. So what happens is you can export the full analysis from our system. You have it in a what do you call it again? It's CSV. Okay, Jörg knows that I have trouble with these files, but not ours in general. But there you would have a full report of what we are seeing here, and change the data even after, process them into another system.
And the other way is we have print, so like all these formatted fact sheets and so on, or the user story map you can print out. It's a browser-based print, but if you say like save as PDF, you have a PDF.
Yeah, so that's the two alternatives.
So we totally understand, because everything is very useful, not only for the designer, but for the engineer, for the product manager, for the entire product team. We understand that there would be a value in making this truly shareable, shared access. At this point, we don't support it, but it's a known item on our roadmap. Does it export non-proprietary structured data? What formats? I think that was also the answer. Are there limitations on interview data inputs? Yes and no. So you can only do one upload for one project. So you analyze basically one upload. I think you can combine interviews into one file, but basically what it does, it takes a transcript, whatever it is, and it extracts all the information. It's not summarizing it. It extracts all information from that transcript and builds the same type of context description and analysis based on these data. So instead of going to an LLM system and asking for everything which is known about a context, it takes your content from the transcript, from the interview, and builds up everything as good as possible based on your interview. What else? Does the tool provide access to sources that were cited in the insights and outputs? Yeah, in the insight, it's a cross-link, if this is what you mean. If you go to insights and you look at the items in these clustered themes, it navigates basically to the source inside the analysis. So everything is cross-linked. From a journey, you can link to the subtask or task or stakeholder. Everything is cross-linked because it's a knowledge path, if that was the question. Assuming this is based on existing AI data maturity, can we assume that the info that the system provides is currently limited in scope and will grow over time as AI data access matures related? Yeah. So I think, of course, it is limited to whatever is represented in that version of the LLM. Unless you have a role, like a very new whatever role which didn't exist for a year, we have almost never seen something where it's like, oh, there is no information. So, user research is basically understanding what really the current work practice is. And in work practice doesn't change every month. It's not net new. You can even add things like how would cleaning your window with a robotic device, and it would try to make up, the scenario to use the robotic device as a scenario and come up more with how you control the device instead of cleaning the window. So you can add additional context to tweak it, to also think about a modern way of doing a certain job. I think that's what I see here. What are inputs?
Okay, then.
Yeah, I think that's what I see here.
Okay, yep. Then we've overused our time, which is positive, I think.
So I can only encourage everyone, like, there's a free trial is the wrong name. You can use it for free, test it with your own context, do exactly the same what we just did. Go in, see how much it resonates with you, how much more detail you get from the analysis. And you can also contact us for more information and questions, of course. Yeah. From a company corporate perspective, if you are interested as a corporation, if you're a leader of your X organization and you're interested to standardize on a tool or to use the tool, kind of test the tool in the organization, we are very interested to support you. You get first-hand support from us, and it is, for us, it's the new way to do, as Thomas pointed out at the beginning. Secondary research becomes the primary choice. Good.
Thank you very much, everybody. That would be it from our side. You have our contact data. We're very happy for chats. Just contact us. We're nice people. Good to talk.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.